Hi, everybody. Hi. Welcome. You know what tonight is? It's almost halfway through this year of 2015, and it's also our 23rd program of the year, and we're scheduled for a total of 46 so far this year. 46 programs in 52 weeks. When do we sleep, right? So, anyway, for those that don't know, my name is Stuart Schlossman, and yes, president and founder of this great organization that we call MS Views and News. Why? Because we're giving you views and we're giving you news, and it's mainly the news that we want you to know about. All right, before all this other chatter is going to happen tonight, I ask everybody here, along with me, to thank Teva Neuroscience, because they are the ones that gave us the funding to do tonight's program. So we want to thank you all. I want to thank Teva. You know, we rely on the pharmaceutical dollars to do our programs, and the pharmaceutical industry actually wants you all to learn from these types of programs. Whether it be MS Views and News or another patient advocacy organization, we are the ones that are providing you with information that you need to learn and help you moderate yourselves and your lives with multiple sclerosis. If you're the caregiver, it's great that you're attending these programs as well, because we actually want you to know even more than the patient, because the patient is going to need you to help them possibly down the line. Okay, going a little bit further now. MS Views and News, as I mentioned, there's over 150 videos on the YouTube channel, and that's because since 2010, when we began, we have done over 160 programs in just 5 years. And again, that's a great thing. This year, as I mentioned, we're doing number 23. We're on the path to do 46, possibly a few more. Maybe we'll do 52. That would be rough, huh? Good smiles out there. Tonight's format, for those who haven't seen what's been on the table, it's at the centerpiece. I see one right there. It's never been looked at. You don't want to look at it? You don't want to see what's doing tonight? Okay, there you go. All right, so first speaker is Brian Stango. For those that know, the neurologist. Okay. That's right, it's nice to clap, come on. There you go. All right, next up we have Rhonda Freeman. She's a PhD neuropsychologist, and she's going to speak with you about the benefits of the neuropsychological testing, how it relates to multiple sclerosis, testing, assessment, and other things. You would think I know how to say that word by now. And then we're going to have Jeffrey Segal, and many people have seen Jeff do his antics and other things that he does to help you stretch out, get rid of some spasticity, help you relieve your bodies of pain that you might be feeling. So Jeff will be up here last. And now I'm going to ask Jennifer Falk, who's our social worker. For those who haven't heard, yes, we have a social worker now. And Jennifer Falk is with us, and she's going to speak to you for a few minutes, and then she'll introduce the speakers again. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Stuart. Good evening, everyone. Hi. My name's Jennifer Falk, and I'm a social worker. I have my master's degree in social work, and I've chosen to make social work my focus of social work to working solely with the MS community. So I work with MS patients, with their family members, and with everyone that is impacted by living with MS. So MS Views and News is growing, and they recently have set up a 1-800 helpline where I am on the other end. So the paper that I put out in front of you is my contact information. And I get calls every day with people living with MS that are asking questions, that have an issue, something's come up new, they want information, and I'm able to give them that information. So that's serving the state of Florida. So you all are welcome to call me. And you may not have any issues now, but keep my number, because you never know. Sometimes something comes up, a change in insurance, a need for financial assistance, a change in your formulary, many different issues that I can help you with. And you can kind of see that listed down the side of the paper here. So I hope to hear from all of you soon. And we've got a great program lined up today. So
next we have Jeff Segal.
How's everybody doing? So if you guys didn't come for the food, then this is what's left, you know. This is the good part about it. Everyone's not gone, so some of you actually came to hear me speak, or you're very polite and just don't want to get off the stage. I was so impressed with the first two speakers, I don't know how I'm going to keep up with them, but I have cognitive problems, so I don't really remember everything they said. I did see Dr. Freeman myself. She gave me a neuropsych exam on 2 occasions. And I do remember, do you remember me? Isn't that the worst question somebody can ask? You remember me? I'm the one who said the Earth was 24,901 miles around. And you said, how do you know that? I said, I don't know. It's one of those things that just pops in your head. But I'll tell you one thing is everything can be said on a light note, and I'm trying to be funny about a lot of stuff. So the first thing I said to her when I went and got the test started was, she said, how are you doing? I said, I don't know. She said, what do you mean you don't know? I said, well, I didn't eat anything last night or this morning because I forgot what kind of test I was going to get in case you took blood. And she looked at me like I was crazy. She said, you got to eat something. I said, I'm just kidding. And we went on with the test. But she offered me a candy bar. So how many of you guys in here exercise today? Or actually on most days? I don't mean today specifically. You do? Is what? Thinking about exercise? Well, pretty much. I mean, you got to think about it before you do it. But that's the problem. That's a big problem, is too many people do think about it and don't do it, or think about when are they going to do it, or think about what they used to do when they did it. And that's the biggest pitfall you can come by, is comparing yourself to what once was. Because what you don't think about is we're all kind of egotistical in the way we think, and we think the highest of ourselves on certain occasions. So if you ask somebody if they exercise, the most common thing that they'll tell you is where they were at their very best. And they won't think twice about how hard they worked to get to that point. Does that happen with you guys? Do you guys ever think about where you used to be, or when you go to the gym? How many of you go to the gym and you haven't been to the gym in, say, 5-6 years, and you try what you did the last time and you hurt yourself and you don't ever want to go back, and you say the gym's not for me? That's because you're uninformed and your ego got the best of you. So what you want is to go in and be informed. Now what I like to do is go in when you go to the gym with an open mind. I'd say out of the 5, if you take 5 pieces of equipment and you show them to me, I'll tell you 5 different ways that you can use it that's not listed on the side of the machine, you know, because you got to have an open mind. You got to think outside the box. Now, some of the things that goes on in the gym are, you know, you want to get bigger, stronger, and look better. But what you really want to do in the gym is you want to do things in the gym that are going to help you outside of the gym. You don't want the outcome just to be measured in the gym, because, you know, that's just one portion of the day. How many people know how many hours there are in a week? That's the left side of the brain, right? Where'd she go? No, 168 hours in a week. Okay? Out of those 168 hours of the week, what do you do with it? Some of the time you're sleeping, hopefully. If not, then you're going to have some real major memory problems. Some of the time you're eating, some of the time you're socializing, some of the time you're working. But a lot of the time you're thinking about what you should be doing. And there's 3 things that happen: is what you should do, what you can do, but that's not important if you're not willing to do it. So what you will do. And you got to figure out what the things are that you will do, so that way you can succeed when you're doing whatever it is your event's going to be in the gym for that particular day. We're on the same page? So I'm here to talk a little bit about stretching, flexibility, pain. You know, I think the most painful thing that happens to me is when I forget something. And I can tell you one thing. How many of you have walked into a kitchen and said, wait, what did I come in here for? How many of you, raise your hand if that's happened. You know what the best solution to that is? Get out of the kitchen. Because if you go in the kitchen, you forget what you went in there for, get out as fast as you can before you open the fridge, because an appetite comes in rather than hunger. And if you're hungry, you would know why you were in the kitchen. You know, that's a big problem that we have, and that's what everyone outside of the MS world. You go and people walk into the kitchen and they forget what they went in there for, and they come out with something sweet or something, you know, that kind of stuff. Planning is the other thing. Planning is one of the most important things when you talk about weight control, and we're all part of that. You know, we want to control our weight, whether we're at the ideal weight that we should be, whether we're overweight or whether we're underweight. There's so many different things that can happen to you. So the best way to do, you know, work with a program or work with any kind of a dietary structured eating habits you have is to plan them. Same thing when it comes to exercise. If you plan what you're going to eat, chances are you're not going to get over hungry and find yourself in the line at McDonald's. Right? Because that's not where you want to be. But if you become over hungry and you're just starving and you've missed a meal, what you want is the sweetest, saltiest, fattiest, tastiest food, and you want it all, and you want it now, and you want to eat it fast. So back to the question that was for Dr. Steingo, which is how long does it take to tell if you're full? Well, you'll find out pretty quickly if you get that hungry. You start eating and eating and eating, and about 2,000 calories into the meal, you'll start to feel a little bit full. And then you'll start to say, wow, well, why did I do that? So what I have in here is my toolbox that I just whipped together and put some things in a bag to bring here that I want to show you guys that can help with exercise, stretching, and whatever the activity is that may help spasticity or may help just tight muscles. A towel. Had to bring a red towel because it matched my shirt. And I'm always told red's intimidating. Don't wear red when you speak. So that definitely made me wear red today. I hope I'm not intimidating. All I got's my towel. I got my furniture mover. You guys, if you've heard me speak, you've probably heard me talk about furniture movers. Anybody? You? Well, you've got one of my furniture movers. I'm looking for someone to move my furniture, so someone please raise their hand. No, this is great because if you can't lift your leg or flex at the hip, you can still do some movement, some stuff that you may not have been able to do before. These are very cheap. You can buy them at Office Depot, Home Depot. You get 4 of them, pack of 4 for $15, or you can go onto one of the commercial websites for fitness equipment and buy them for like $35 for 2. It's your choice.
What are they called?
Furniture movers. All right, I have a problem with my short-term memory too. I also have a problem with my short-term memory. Okay, this is an elastic band. Some people use it for stretching. Some people use it for pull-up assistance. Put it over the bar, put it under your legs, helps you with a pull-up. I like using it for stretching. I'll show you some different things I do with it once I get going. You can put it next to your bed. How many people wake up in the middle of the night with a cramp in their calf? Right? It's painful, right? How many people get the cramp but don't wake up? That's the worst. I've had that happen. It's the worst thing. You wake up in the morning, it's like you're dreaming about the cramp. You can't wake up and it's just there. You wake up the next day, you got a knot. I like to keep a towel close to my bed because it's a good thing to wrap around your foot and pull to stretch your gastrocnemius, your calf muscles, or your hamstring if that's what's having spasticity problems. This is a good thing to keep by the bed. But those are just little things that you can do. The other thing is, how many of you have learned or haven't learned yet that you should not tuck your sheets in if you have MS and have cramping problems in your legs? If you tuck your sheets in, it confines your feet and you can get a cramp in your foot a lot easier. Does that ever happen to anybody? Oh, my secrets are coming out. I also got some cooking stuff in here for you guys to look at. Rolling pin, a timer. Anybody have an oven? Okay, I need an oven. But this is something that can be as useful as anything to stay active. How many of you sit down too long or sit behind a computer and lose track of time, find yourself there for hours? Raise your hand. It's okay, I'm not going to make fun of you yet. You know what that means to me? 2 things. You're sedentary and you're dehydrated. Does that make sense? You want to move a little bit more, drink more water, you won't be dehydrated, and you'll have to use the restroom. But if you're behind a computer for hours at a time, that means you're not moving enough, and that means that you are probably dehydrated, unless you really, really have a strong bladder. So this thing here is a basic cooking timer. You can get them for a couple bucks at Walmart. So something that you can do is keep this next to you at the computer. You gotta practice it so you don't give yourself a heart attack when it goes off. But I'm gonna set it for 10 minutes so when it goes off, you'll see what it sounds like. It's just a buzz, but that's a reminder to stand up. If you just stand up, how many people have treadmills at your house and don't use them? Everyone's like, oh no, I'm not gonna be that person. There's definitely somebody in this room that has a very expensive clothes hanger. Right? Yeah, people are laughing like, that's me, how did you know? They have better use for things than hanging your clothes on them. But if you have trouble using a treadmill because you just have trouble getting yourself to actually act, not because of your walking abilities, but because it's there and you're here and I don't want to go over there and I'll do it later, if you're one of those, the best advice I have to start working on a treadmill is to just go and stand on it. And I've challenged some people to do that, and I didn't tell them. I'm giving you guys the secret here. But if you just go stand on a treadmill, the chances of you pressing the on button are pretty high. But the toughest thing is to get onto that treadmill and stand on it, because once you're standing on a treadmill or sitting on a bike, now what are you going to do? It's kind of, you feel kind of silly sitting there not doing anything, so you may as well walk a little bit. You know, and then a little bit becomes a little bit more and a little bit more, and then you forget that I got out of that habit. Rolling pin is something I'm going to talk about when I get some more of the ingredients out. I'll talk about it now. A rolling pin, there's some different pieces of equipment that are out there. One is called the stick. Anybody heard of it? You can't say you because I know you have one. But anybody, it's like a roll. It looks like this, but it has little beads around it. These are good. A rolling pin is something really good for myofascial release. So if you have cramping, you can use a rolling pin to help with that. Some people have really tight IT bands. Anybody in here have a tight IT band? Anybody in here not know what an IT band is? Okay, well, you might just be the people with a tight IT band. IT band is the muscle that runs down the side of your leg, and it can become very tight. You can kind of feel it there. It's not the same as some of the other muscles that you have. But if you feel like a lot of tightness, or you can't do that, can't internally rotate your hip or bring your leg across your body like this, because this is too tight, you probably have a tight IT band. This is something that can help a tight IT band, the stick, or one of these. Anyone seen one of these before? Foam roller? What you can do with them is put them on the ground. They're very, very tough. If anybody wants to come up and feel what it's like, I won't hit you with it, I promise, unless you do something first. Well, you can put them on the ground, you can put them on the wall, but you can roll your leg on them like this. You can put it in the bed too. You can do it in the bed, you can do it on a table, on a massage type table. It's really good to have somebody around to help you too. Now, how many people stretch every day? Okay. How many people wake up and do this? Like, that stretch? That's stretching, but that's not a good stretch to do throughout like an exercise program, but most people wake up and stretch. Most animals do. But you can't compare yourself to animals because, even though we are animals, it's very different where I've heard people say, well, cheetahs don't stretch before they go run and catch their prey, and they're the fastest animal in the world. Well, they don't have computers either, and they don't live that long. So we want to be as flexible and as able as we can for a long period of time, because I hope everybody here plans on living a long time. One thing about muscles that I can compare them to are rubber bands. You know what happens if you put a rubber band in a refrigerator? It gets cold. But when you take it out, if you try to stretch it, two things are going to happen. It's going to either snap or it's going to get a little bit longer than it was when it went in there. So the point of that is muscles should not be stretched when they're cold. So warming up is key to stretching and flexibility exercise, because if you wake up, your muscles are cold, and you just start stretching right there and then, you have a possibility of tearing or having some kind of strain in the muscle, and you may hurt yourself. But something as simple as putting like a warm heating pad or something on your leg, that's a passive warm-up where it's not going to get your whole body heated up, but it will get the area that you're trying to stretch loose enough to stretch. For me, the best type of stretching and flexibility training is just doing exercises in their full range of motion. So that would mean for every push you do a pull. So if you push, you're stretching your back out. If you pull, you're stretching your chest out. Pretty simple, right? When it comes to your hamstrings and your quadriceps, the groups of muscles here usually don't tighten up as much because people sit so long and they're on stretch because your knee is bent. So your hamstrings will get tightened up because they're shortened. Does that make sense? They're shorter. They're shortened right now they're longer. So this muscle is longer and it is stretching when I have it out like that. That's how you stretch a hamstring would be, and if you grew up any time around when I did or before, the old school ways of stretching have come and gone because they had to modify things due to injuries. But the hurdler stretch, anybody heard of it? The hurdler stretch, and I'm going to show you this, but I don't want you to do it. It'll ring a bell, and I'm going to show you the modified hurdler stretch. A hurdler stretch was when your coach would have you put one leg back like this, reach for your foot. Do you guys remember doing that stretch? What that did was it had lots of injuries to the medial collateral ligament. And they realized that. They modified it by bringing the foot in and then doing the stretch. So that's something that if you remember doing that other stretch, don't do it. Do this one. This one is safer. It doesn't put the pressure on your medial collateral ligament, and your knees will be safe. Also, when you're stretching, some people say, oh, I'm going to touch my toes. Once you touch your toes, if you go straight down and touch your toes, if your shoulders are further forward than your feet, you're basically hanging on ligaments in your back. So it's not a good idea to just touch the floor without sticking your behind out a little bit. So if you did that, it would be like the equivalent of a deadlift. And you see how my shoulders aren't passing my toes? It's still not safe because of balance. So it's better to do that on the floor or have somebody assist you. How many people in here have a stretch routine that they do? You? Give me some examples. Or if you have any questions that might help with it. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, one thing that, it's good to do something, and gentle is the key word. You want it to be gentle, you want to ease yourself into it. One thing you don't want to do is bounce. I remember they used to have us do these bouncing stretches where you'd go down and touch and up and down and touch, and that's just like, getting ready for a torn muscle. Some of the other things, like I was saying, full range of motion exercises is the best way to keep yourself flexible. If you're doing a lunge, that's going to stretch your glutes and your hamstrings out. If it's a reaching lunge or something like this where you can go all the way down, that's going to be the same thing as stretching on your back. But it's better to do a stretch when you're on your back like this, if you're able to, in bed, if you've already warmed yourself up. It's a lot safer than leaning forward, up. That was 10 minutes. So somebody in here has got to stand up. I don't care who it is. One person that's sitting, stand up, please. Not all at once. Okay. I'm happy, okay? I got some people involved. You guys did a great job, thanks. Now, if you do that and set it for every 30 minutes when you're at the computer and you just stand up once, you're going to stand a lot more often than you normally would have. So that's a good $2 investment. So back to what I was saying. Like if you're in bed sleeping and you get a cramp or something, the reason for having the towel is you can do something like this that will help alleviate the cramp, because I'm putting my calf on stretch, this back here where it usually tightens up, and I'm also getting my foot on stretch and my hamstring. So rather than leaning forward and doing it where you put your back a little bit in jeopardy, this you're able to control it a little bit. Another thing about stretching out your hamstrings, you shouldn't feel it behind your knee. You can still stretch your hamstrings out with a slight bend at the knee, but when you straighten your leg out and you start to feel that pulling back here, you're feeling a tendon. So be careful with that. And I don't know if I had mentioned this before, but before you do any kind of exercise routine or stretching, talk to your doctors about it. They could have some input, and you should get their consent to start in any kind of exercise program. That's my disclaimer that I left out. So throw that at the beginning of the video, please. Any questions so far? For stretching? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of them unless there's a reason for having them. I mean, it's really just flipping you over. There's a lot of risks that can be involved, especially when it comes to your blood pressure and changing. That's almost like doing your at-home tilt test. So if you have problems with your autonomic nervous system, you could have some dysfunction in regulating your blood pressure, but you should talk to your doctor about that before really doing anything that looks kind of neat, but you're not quite sure about.
Anybody have questions here?
Yeah, we got some over there.
Wait.
My doctor asked me to get physical therapy in the water, so I actually do aerobics 3 times a week in the water where I live for 45 minutes. It's very strenuous for me. It's nonstop, but I do all the stretching and all the exercises. Balance and everything. It's called arthritis aerobics. We do the fingers and everything.
The great thing about water is you're light in the water. So when you normally wouldn't be able to take a step, you might be able to take a step. Some of the things that are a little, you got a caution flag up when you go in the water is that you don't want to overdo it when you get in the water, because the water gives you a sense of, of coolness, and you're able to do more. And what I tell everybody who's going to do anything in the water is be prepared, not just to get in, but to get out. Because the most difficult thing about getting at, in an aerobics in the water program like that is getting out of the water when you're tired and you don't realize it. Now you have to bear the weight that you normally have with gravity on land. So be careful, don't overdo it, and stay hydrated in the water too, because that's another thing you forget about. You think that you're in the water, you're not sweating, you're still sweating, and you can still get very dehydrated. So go and have something to drink, and make sure that there's water available while you're exercising. Next. What? Don't drink the pool water. Especially if he's been in it.
Hi, I go to the gym 3 times a week, Silver Sneakers program. We exercise for about an hour. But at night, I still get leg cramps, really bad. And not only leg cramps in the back where the calf is, but right in here.
Okay, and
On
your
the
peroneal
side.
muscles on the side?
She's pointing to her,
The side, or
yes,
lateral.
Ankle.
Okay, my answer to that is, since I'm not there and I haven't seen what your doctor said, you should talk to your doctor about it, because there's a lot of things that can cause cramping. There's from your circulatory system to your nervous system to muscular system. So if you want to talk to your doctor about it to see that maybe there's not something going on, but in addition to what you're doing, make sure that you're stretching. Maybe stretch before go to sleep. That might be a good idea, but talk to your doctor about it, because, like I said, a cramp isn't just caused because you have MS. There's so many other things and so many other comorbidities that can occur to people that have MS that get it checked. Make sure that you're doing everything right. Any other questions?
No, nothing. Thank you.
Is that okay?
questions? I got there first.
I was wondering, does cramping happen more often when you're not hydrated as much?
Yes, if you're dehydrated, you are definitely more prone to having cramping.
Is it
Your whole body can cramp. I mean, it's
salt intake?
salt
play a part in
intake
that as well?
can also be a factor of cramping. Too much sodium intake. So the best thing to do is follow a healthy diet, low in salt, have enough water, and if you don't eat any kind of carbohydrates whatsoever, you're also prone to being dehydrated because you got nothing for the water to attach to, and that's a completely no carbohydrate diet, which is why you see a lot of rapid weight loss at the beginning of those diets, because you become dehydrated.
Thank you.
Potassium, is that good to get rid of?
Potassium?
Potassium.
If you're lacking it, that goes back to like what Dr. Steingo was saying. If you check your numbers and you have a potassium issue, then you talk to your doctor and say, what can I do to correct that? Or they'll tell you. But it's the best way to supplement or to take vitamins is with a blood panel. That way you're not just wasting your money, because you can take every vitamin in the world. The majority of them, if they're the water-soluble vitamins, all that's going to happen is you're going to have expensive urine. That's what you're really going to have, and it's flushed right down the toilet. So know what you need before you really go after and try to tackle the problem, and talk to your doctors about it and see if there's anything in your blood that shows deficiencies.
I have severe spasticity. Is there anything, any kind of stretching, and a lot of pain in my back? Is there any kind of stretching or anything that can alleviate pain and back pain, or any?
Well, have you ever had massage done? Was it helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
Momentarily.
Okay, so massage therapy is something that's helpful for spasticity. Massage therapy does something very similar as what I was showing you with this, but you can't do that on your back, so you need someone else to do it. So having a partner do some myofascial release or getting a massage therapist is very important to the whole team. You got to have that as part of your team. But yes, I do think that massage for spasticity is very helpful. And it depends on the person. And it also depends on when you communicate that with your doctor. Is it your MS? Is it something else? Try to get all that stuff figured out before you really dive into something and think that this is going to be the cure to it. But massage is great.
Last question over here.
Last question. Make it a really good one. The pressure's on.
I'll try. Is there anything you can recommend for stiffness concentrated in the knee area?
Movement.
Well, any particular types?
What I like doing is using one of these while you're seated. I'll sit down and show you. When my knees are stiff, I like to use a furniture mover. Put it on the floor, and that's something that's not weight bearing, but you're able to move your knee the way it's supposed to move. Flexion, extension, flexion, extension. The knee's not a very complex joint. There's a lot that goes on in the knee, but if your knee does something besides flex and extend, then it's going to need some surgical help probably, because it's not something that should rotate or abduct or adduct. It just does this and this. That's why there's a lot of knee injuries, and that's why the more you see ankle taping, the more knee injuries happen, because the ankle doesn't roll. It's better to roll your ankle than to tear your ACL. But yeah, that's something that you can. Another thing that's good for tight knees is heat. Heat's a good thing. Heat before, ice after. That's always the way when you have stiff muscles. Don't ice before you do activities.
Heat. Okay, thank you, Jeff Segal. There you go. So, again, of course, we have to do this at the end of every program, and that is we want to thank again Teva Neuroscience, because we couldn't have done this program without them giving us the funding to do so. So I do thank Teva very much.